Good evening, everybody. Good evening. The time is 7 o'clock or thereabouts, and we'll get started. Welcome. We'll start with a roll call. Shirley, we have everybody except for Rob O'Brien. And we still have one vacant seat on the committee. Thank you, Shirley, for the minutes from our February 13th meeting, held in cozier quarters upstairs. Feels like a lifetime ago. If folks need another minute to look over those minutes, or have any questions.
Sorry not to have been present.
You were across the hall.
I was
We were on
doing something.
We were on Tuesday night, and you had a meeting across the hall.
We were everybody.
Using your other hat.
What was the meeting about thing on Flip Street? Too many hats.
Could I have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I move that we approve the minutes as
Thank you,
listed,
Patty. Motion
whatever
by
it is.
Patty, second. Alan, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstaining due to absence on Monday.
One abstention. Thank you. Under Chairman's report, I don't have any updates regarding finances, budget, or the potential closing of any projects. There's been no activity since the last time we met. Under 4C, Other, I would just like to make brief mention that as we allegedly are approaching spring, it is also the time. It is also the time that this committee typically talks about or takes action on an open forum. CPC open forum. And so I just want to put that out there. And as I look back for my few years on the committee, it's typically been something, there's no set format to what we need to do, but it's something that we've typically done in the spring, and I would be proposing that if we're going to continue to have that open forum in the spring, that May would be a good time for that. So that I'll be asking Shirley to place an item on our April agenda, and I'll come with some suggestions, and we can talk about what an open forum at our May, as part of our May meeting, what that would include. Okay,
Excuse me, I have a question.
Sure, Patty.
Since we're recording all of these and they are televised, the reason we had the open forum was so it would be televised at least once a year for the public.
Yes.
Now these are being televised every meeting. Why do we need the open forum?
I think that's part of what I'd like to have us talk about in terms of the model we've used in the past and what we think would be a good component, characteristics of the open forum. So thank you. That's exactly what I'd like to talk about.
Okay.
It is, yes. It's not an optional thing. It's expected that we would be getting, most importantly, feedback from the respective boards that are represented here, but also the community as well. So what kind of forum and what kind of format would we like?
Okay.
And, including letting folks know maybe a little more than we normally do with agenda postings that this is happening.
It may be premature to get into ideas, but just wondering if there can be sort of a look back and exploration of what's been good or what we maybe feel has been lacking in past forums, and see if it's a chance to maybe change one or two things up a little bit and outreach more and not presenting any of those ideas now, but just to avoid doing the same old thing just because we did it before. But as John says, there's a legislative requirement. We might as well live up to it the best we can, and it's a good chance each year to see if we can improve.
Agreed.
I think the only thing we need to change is the attendance.
Yeah, there we go. And nowhere to go but up? Yes, absolutely.
That's a goal, a good goal.
It's
So-
not well attended.
I think we'll have a running total of 3 people.
In recent years, yes, I think 3 is probably our peak. Thank you for that, and we'll definitely have that for next month. Under old business updates on town meeting approved CPC projects, no action on Boteri, no action on Schoolhouse until the spring. I'll go to 5A3 housing production plan.
I'm very pleased to say there has been some movement on that. We have put out a request to bid. We received 3 responses. There are going to be 3 scorers. I'm one of them. The town planner has been asked to be one of the scorers, and Tom Tebow, who's the executive director of the Housing Authority, is going to be the 3rd scorer. So I'm getting it on Friday. We'll score it the next week. and we'll make a selection. All three of the proposals looked great. All of them looked very familiar from proposals I've seen here in town from the Historical Commission and CBC, similar firms. So we're really excited and we'll get that started going this spring.
Excellent.
Good.
Thanks, Teresa, that's great.
If I could just propose, maybe the first item here was the Rotary Field.
Please,
Town Park
yes, let's
project.
go back to that.
It's been a tad frustrating, mostly by the weather. If we would start having crises, we could maybe aim for more work. But for quite some time, used to be the Town Forest Committee, now it's the Conservation Commission. We are a little impatient in the slowness of addressing the trees that need to come down, which is where the signs would be installed. But what I would propose is that conservation is likely to be very active soon in really pursuing this, because we would like things to happen before the baseball season begins with the tree removals. Of course, nature's been removing trees all along.
Yes, these
Not the
things.
right ones.
But yeah, not the right ones. We need to accelerate that, and I hope at the next meeting we'll have something concrete to report.
Wonderful. Thank you.
It's the urgent goal.
Thank you. Phil, back to you, Poor Meadowbrook Improvement Project, any updates on that?
Not just now. There have been many plans ruminating, but nothing concrete to report.
Okay. Very good. No additional old business with the Historical Commission under 5B. And now old business under 5C, we have the revised CPC application and guidelines. I want to thank all the members of the committee, from the subcommittee up to the full committee, with all of your feedback. And so what Shirley has brought to you, you now have multiple copies of this, but the documents you have in front of you now would be, with your approval this evening, the guidelines and the application that we would put forth for, I guess I would, you know, we would put it on the website, we would make it available, we would educate the public in terms of, these would be the docs that would be used, and we would pull the other ones off, pending action tonight. So if I could entertain a motion relative to the guidelines and the revised application.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Teresa, second by Phil. Any discussion on the guidelines or the application as presented?
May we presume that we're making a motion considering the guidelines and the application documents all of a piece as one approval action?
Yes. Yeah, one motion for all of the documents. Yes.
I'll just say one thing,
Thank you, Shirley.
is that I did contact Mary, and they approved us getting our own email address, so when that gets approved and created, then we'll put that on the application.
Thank you. I had inquired about the committee having a town email address, so that's what Shirley's referencing. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
And where will that go? So for instance, the Housing Authority Commissioners all have town emails, but it goes to, we can have it sent to our personal accounts if we want it. So
Yeah.
will it go to an account that you as chair will have access to, or
That-
will it
in-
be
in-
sent?
Yes, in keeping with the recent practice of having a Gmail account, I'm thinking that is something that I would want the clerk and the chair to have access to.
Does that make sense? We need a POB address.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, yes, it is. I think
Yeah.
I updated it on, she asked about the phone. Did I tell you that already, that I updated it? That's all set too. So I have access to the voicemail and the phone numbers.
Good. She's not that ready.
1-800-CPC 2018, is that right?
Yeah,
Or maybe not, or maybe not.
close.
But she checked it when she gave me the information, there was nothing there.
Thanks for checking that, Shirley. Any further discussion on this? If-
Like I say, good job.
Thanks, John. I think I appreciate everybody's feedback. We've taken a version and we've made it better, leaner, meaner, more user friendly, and we'll launch it to the world.
It's leaner for sure, and I think it's a real improvement, so good work, guys.
Right.
Yeah, as long as that's.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you. Under old business 5D, I just wanted to mention, I have no document for you tonight, but I was You may recall a few months ago, we had some interest from Hanson Youth Football and Whitman Hanson Lacrosse about a fields proposal. Still nothing at the level of a proposal, but I just wanted to let you know that they've reached back out, they forwarded an email, and I'll have it on next month's agenda. Not a proposal, but I'd like you to be able to see it as a committee.
Didn't I forward that to everybody?
Oh,
I think so, I think you had me forwarded, I just forgot.
my apologies, yes.
I forgot to print it for this meeting,
Yes,
but I
okay.
think I did forward it to
Yeah.
everybody.
So they haven't taken any additional action on wanting, and you may recall, this had to do with upgrading fields at Laquan. And they had reached out a few months ago, and then it was quiet. I had given some feedback suggesting that something that would help this committee, especially from a Parks and Fields point of view, would be a prioritized, their level of expertise on the fields in town and what they consider to be priority action, so that this committee wasn't looking at proposals on a piecemeal basis, parts to whole and whatnot. So I believe that they're moving in that direction, but for a more formal discussion, if you have that in your email inboxes from within the last few weeks, if you want to take a look at that. But I'll have it as an agenda item for next month as well, just to raise our awareness. Again, they're not asking to move the needle on anything at this moment, as I recall, but just to put it back on our radar.
And just so you know, the president of the soccer league, Hanson, he has expressed an interest of coming forward, but I relayed the message that we were looking for a comprehensive plan, so he did not put in an application, and that he should, maybe at this point though, if they're still looking to go forward, he should coordinate with them.
Yes.
I think that would be helpful.
I think those are all the right words to use: comprehensive plan, priorities, coordination, so that when the public is presented with any opportunity to do something, they know it's really been well vetted by all the sports interests, and it's easier to understand what the priorities are, and maybe to have discussion and hopefully agree.
No, we're not picking one sport over
Right,
another.
right, it needs to be,
They gotta get together.
organization of all those thoughts and priorities would be very helpful to everyone's success.
Agreed.
Are they working at all with what's going to happen with McCon School? Is that going to affect anything on the fields or anything? I just wanted to-
I'm not aware of any formal coordination, but I do think that certainly is a question of what it
There actually is the Laquan,
Yeah, the reuse.
Reuse.
The reuse,
But
right.
perhaps the early stages, that committee's act might explain why some other proposals are a little bit slow to develop. They may need to see what's gonna happen.
certainly,
With
always,
that,
that
right,
makes
that's
perfect
one
sense.
thing.
Before they, decide anything in detail on
Right.
fields.
Yeah, I agree.
Could I ask you to recirculate that particular piece?
I actually don't
See it in my
recall.
thing. Okay.
I'll do that again.
Thanks, Shirley.
Thank
I'm
you.
almost positive I did.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, I don't remember seeing it.
Okay.
I used to do.
It's probably in the middle of one of those, storm 1, 2, or 3.
Oh, yeah.
That's possible.
Yes.
Thank you, so that'll be a topic we can chat about next month as well. Under new business, there's no new historical commission related business under 6A. I'd also point out that the commission under 6C will not have an application for consideration tonight, so that we will not be taking up that agenda item, which leaves us with item 6B, the Recreation Commission's application for Camp Kawani Docks. And Diane has hard copies of the application. Yes, certainly. One folder per person?
Per person.
All right.
So it doesn't vote in percent parentheses, is that just, like, I'm not gonna vote on this yet, because we're just getting the application, right?
The markers, right, the historical places?
Right, so
It was sent out
the
online.
application was, John, the application was sent out electronically
Yeah.
last,
You have to have the original.
last week, I believe.
And we had agreed at the last meeting that if you could get the application a week ahead of time to us, then we could all have reviewed it ahead of time,
By March 7th, I think it was, we had said March 7th.
so that we could vote on it.
You did.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, you did, you got it.
Yeah, okay, but
She sent it on March 7th.
Mhm.
Mary was very, very kind to do that. Because she just whipped everything out, like scanning everything, and,
Oh,
because I
nice.
was at the copy machines, doing it, she's like, don't bother with that, let me do it. And she was so kind. Thank her properly.
So taking a few minutes to just begin to flip through this, I have a question, Diane, if I could ask.
Sure.
I'd be happy to defer to anyone else if they have an immediate question. Diane, can you talk about the documentation leading to the estimate of $80,000?
Sure. River Hawk Engineering gave us an environmental plan that they worked with conservation on, and they just factored in an average of what these docks cost, what it would cost to get out the pilings and the footings and all of that, and that's what they came up with to emulate the structure that's already there, the H and the I. So I think I included their entire report in everybody's folder.
Okay, so that's the freestanding
Yes.
document at the back.
Yours is double-sided, so, yeah. I'm safe.
And then can I make Diane had asked that the Hanson Historical Commission look at this, and because our meeting was right before this, the whole committee needed to look at it and approve the letter. So this was the letter that we approved and are submitting with the application. This was not included previously in what was circulated, but it's just a letter of support from the Historical Commission.
Could I ask a financial question, Tom?
Sure, John.
How much money is left in the historical budget? Specifically. Because it seems like you have two projects totaling, I think it exceeds the amount available in the historical budget. Because I believe that's reasonably completed.
Did I didn't think I was coming in under historical, I was coming in under recreation. Is that
Active recreation.
Active
Yeah, so
recreation.
John, this is a,
Active recreation.
I don't have an answer to, even if you said what's right, I don't have an answer to the historic one, an updated answer for you.
But this
But-
is just,
But this is a recreation
Active
application.
recreation. Because while,
Yeah, it says in the application that once the agreement is prepared and final full decision must be executed by the organization receiving CPA funds forward to the Massachusetts Historical Commission for approval upon return to the Mass Historical must be approved by both the Hanson CPC and the Hanson Board of Select.
where's that?
That's on page 19.
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm here.
page 19.
I was confused about what that meant.
19.
Actually, I know from a different experience with a different project that the project, regardless of where our money is coming from, if you're gonna do work on a physical piece of land, the Mass Historical Commission should be invited to make comments on whether the work that would take place, or supposed to take place, would have an effect on any historical resources. If, for example, a Native American site, or, who knows what it would be, but which is, even though the word historical, it's separate from where our money comes from.
I wasn't
Diane?
sure if that was going to be a requirement only because we're not changing anything, we're just sort of replacing the current shape and this configuration's the same and everything. So I wasn't sure that they really needed to, because we're not really doing anything to the land.
My experience is with the project, it actually acquired land which had not been town property before.
Right.
And so maybe it's not relevant, but I'm just saying, the Mass Historical Commission,
But that was a
we should make sure.
Well, the camp is
Yeah.
on
To
the,
John- to
it's on
John's
the
point.
historic
Start,
register.
but when I had asked about that at that MHPP thing I went to, they said that if it's already on the historical thing and you're not changing anything that's there and there's not gonna be a change in the deed or a deed restriction or anything like that,
We don't need it.
I didn't think they said they didn't need it.
And that
So,
appendix
Who was the
is-
they that said that?
the guy that was running, I went to the.
She went to the Mass Historic Commission meeting.
Okay, and then it would be great to document that, to
Projects.
John's point, to make sure that we aren't overlooking the dotted I or cross T.
Okay,
Right, so
I
I think where I'm trying to go with this is, we have several buckets that we can
Right.
use, right?
Yep.
And recreation is not one of them, right? So the recreation use comes out of the general fund.
okay,
right? Not like out of the historical commission,
okay,
right? So I just want to make sure that whatever funds we're taking from the right place.
And if there's enough,
and
right?
if there's enough.
Right.
So I guess my question is, the other thing I didn't see in this application, and I did read it, and it was quite a while ago, and I'm trying to go through it again.
Yeah.
But I don't see any like matching funds or, I
Right.
guess, you know, and I know at our last meeting, I brought up the question.
Absolutely. And that is, we received a letter from Mike McHugh. We were told when we became a commission, that was one of the first things we asked about was fundraising. And we were told by the town administrator that we were not allowed to fundraise as a commission. And then about 2 weeks before I put the application in, we received a letter from Mike showing us a letter he got from the council for the town, the legal counsel the town uses, saying that it would be okay for us to fundraise. So now we're taking up the job of trying to plan fundraisers. We want to have a cornhole tournament, we want to do a lot of things. We've just recently hired a recreation director. And he was supposed to be introduced yesterday at the Board of Selectmen meeting, which is now going to be Thursday. So the fundraising, now that we have legal approval to do it, is something we want to do.
And that's in your budget, that it will be incorporated based on that.
Absolutely. If we can, get it done
Hello?
beforehand, any money that we have toward it is going to
And that would be to use to reduce the 80,000?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the plan.
So the other thing, I guess before I go over this too, is I know there's Friends of Camp Point, that was the purpose of that group, was to raise funds. And if they have any funds still in there, they can't use it for anything else but that. So, I would recommend that you go that avenue and find out where that money is and what's been done with it. So aside from that, that's your problem as a commission. But what I'm looking at is, like in the beginning of it, all the time I've been on this committee since its inception, I've pushed that, we don't fully fund any projects.
Right.
We would only, partially fund
Supplement,
them.
right.
And then be supplemented in other ways. So I guess my question would be, again, like I asked before, is that this should have been first on the capital improvement matrix.
It
And
is.
I think that this plan, this is just my own personal opinion, I think this plan should be on a capital improvement matrix, and it should be a warrant article at town meeting rather than CBC.
Okay. It is on the capital, it is on the matrix.
Yep.
I did get it
Yes.
on there.
Yes, that committee met with John Norton, my husband, who's the head of capital improvement committee,
So I guess really what I'm going, I'm probably giving away how I feel about how I'm gonna vote, but.
No, and that's okay, I respect that, I
Yeah.
absolutely, and like I said, I'm the newbie here, I get it, I'm still learning from all of you.
Right, and my concern with that amount of money is, I feel like we have other projects coming up, and it's not even mentioned, we had a forum, and I'm trying to think of the word for it, very tired right now, but we had a whole show of what we wanted to do, had a plan
Right.
drawn up.
Yeah, community preservation
Yeah,
plan.
and I don't think that's in there, so,
Absolutely, I can understand that, because it was never even a consideration for us until they became unsafe.
So, I guess what I'm saying, I want to say yes, but I feel like I have more reasons to say no than I do
Sure.
to say yes.
And I respect that.
Okay.
Yeah, no personal.
I'm just throwing it out there.
No, and I like hearing that perspective, because again, I didn't even know about this capital.
Community.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
So,
There wasn't anything in the master plan to support Kiwanis? 'Cause I
There
feel like-
absolutely,
Yeah, in general.
in the town master
Yeah,
plan.
the
No,
town
in
master
this,
plan.
in
This.
this, because I feel like when we did those groups, Kiwani came up as,
Yeah, but, I guess my point is, it mentions Camp Kawani in there, right? But it doesn't mention this specific project, and it doesn't really say, well, let's go fully fund Camp Kawani. And I know that from its inception with the CPC, we invited the Recreation Commission because we wanted them to be a partner in the funding that we gave out,
Right,
right? But I don't think it was ever the intent to, just fully fund projects.
oh, no, and Right,
I think
I understand that.
I just feel like, you know, this is one of those projects that, and I'm not, the current board, I think, is doing a wonderful job. But I
Thank
think what should have been going on and happening in the past was, you know, it should have been on the capital matrix, and it should have been something that, you know, the project's funded by money that's collected for the summer camp program, I believe.
Well-
So there are some funds there, so.
There are. I will just give you a quick synopsis though. Since we became a commission, which obviously isn't that long, and I'm sure you are all aware of the evolution of that. We have an enterprise fund, and which has been severely slashed. We had to put in a new septic and all of that. I'm sure you're aware of it. But we weren't planning on doing the docks, like I said, until it became an issue of time. And we want the camp to open, we want there to be swimming lessons, we want there to be recreation. And the only way for us to get it out there in time for this summer is to get the funding for it. It was certainly not our intent to make Camp Kawani look like the top priority in town. I realize there are so many other things. And I learn more every time I come here about all those things, and it's really good. I'm glad I'm learning about it. You know, it's just that they're unsafe. So we either, if we don't get the funding, that's, you know, I totally understand, everybody here is entitled to their vote, I would certainly respect that. And we will just open without any docks, because they're just not safe.
Well, I'm only one person in the room.
No, I know, but I respect your opinion, you're very knowledgeable. And when we did this application thing too, you know,
So
we worked okay.
my only other trepidation that I have is it says in the preamble to the legislation, right?
Yep.
Is that CPC will
Never
not,
to be
should not
used.
be used as a
Sole
supplemental
source.
budget.
Right.
No, not as just a sole source, not as a supplemental budget for town, you know, entities. So, you know, it's clear that the intent was that, you know, this wouldn't be used to, you know, supplement the budget of Camp Kawani.
Right.
You know, so, or any other board, or highway department, or any other part of town. So, you know, I mean, that is part of the preamble of the legislation, which makes it legislative also.
Absolutely, have to adhere to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm just
Would you
putting that out there.
consider, I mean, I think John's take on the fact that it's a bit much for the CBC to fund the full 80,000.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity still, because I know you're under a time crunch, and I know that that's
That's the
a lot
only
of pressure for the committee to try their best to do what's best, you know, because for the community, for the entire summer. But is there an opportunity for you to get on the warrant, get an article on the warrant for this upcoming town meeting,
Yes.
or a portion of it?
That would make me feel really comfortable. I feel like we could move positively if I thought that, you know, the town was gonna take some part of the responsibility
So
for
would
that,
I.
because I think they should. You know, I think they should take full responsibility. I think this is not
Town
really
should
a
be paying for it.
CPC.
Considering our
project.
budget has been slashed by $35,000.
But if, I'm just trying to play out the timing of it. Is there a way, maybe this is impossible, but if there's a way for their commission to get an article in the warrant for a percentage of 60,000 or 40,000, half of it, or maybe even, you know, 40,000, and then they commit to raising 10,000, and then the remaining amount is what you're
Asking for.
We're amending
The
this.
application,
And
right?
then we could put a placeholder for that amount. It may not all come together
Okay.
by the time the town meeting comes, but I wonder if we could be a part of funding.
I can
I
certainly.
mean, you'd have a lot of work to do between now and town meeting, and maybe it wouldn't come together, but I wonder if we can somehow.
Now on the end of the month.
Well, I think we can reserve a spot to just tell them that we have an article that's going to come to town meeting, right? I think we're allowed to reserve a,
Well, there's a
Same.
process here by approving an application, so we would, Tom, you can, we talked a little bit about
That's what we're
this.
doing tonight.
So I think there is an opportunity here to not have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And it might end up being the idea that this committee tonight could take a vote, to agree to a placeholder. So in other words, where the approval of this application, that this committee may feel right now that, the fundraising element or the third-party source element is up in the air a little bit, but we know that the town is under a deadline for placeholder articles.
Yes, yeah, I'd be willing to make a motion for that too.
And then we could resolve the matter by our April meeting, whereas what I don't know, Teresa, I just don't know the answer to this, is that if there's a placeholder article for $80,000 out of CPC, and a month from now, it's determined that it's going to be 50-50 split, I don't know whether that means there have to be two separate warrant articles, one that designates CPC money, followed by a separate vote to raise and appropriate for.
From the town.
So for our purposes, we would be covered based on the current Board of Selectmen deadline for CPC funds. So we could say tonight, let's, authorize me to contact Mary and say, we're okay, would you please put in a placeholder for the amount that REC has requested, but we're not approving the application officially until, we're going to revisit the matter at our April meeting. And I believe it would be up to the REC Commission to meet separately and then make a case to the board to reopen the warrant and then close it again after their set deadline, thinking that you might not be able to do it, There's no way you could do that on a moment's notice.
So I do have one other question. I actually have two.
That's good.
My other one is, have we approached Stewart and to look at the DOR and make sure that this project is actually in compliance with CPC? Even though it's a recreation project and it's within the historical, district and so forth like that.
I have that written down, John, that if we were to not approve this tonight, that what I wrote down here was issue of supplemental budget / maintenance, and that issues of maintenance are not things that should be funded out of CPC. And is
So
there
this isn't maintenance exactly, right?
No,
Or
it's-
he would let us know.
That's
if
a,
it was.
that's a gray fuzzy area because
Yeah, and
you're replacing something because it can no longer be maintained. So in a sense, it is kind of maintenance, like, from a facilities person like myself, to me, replacing those docks is a maintenance thing because, they're no longer usable as they are. So, you would have to maintain them by replacing them. So I think it's a gray area. It's another area that concerned me when I was trying to make a decision on this. And my last and final thing, and I'll be quiet, is,
Really?
really.
I don't mind, I'm
All right, I'll
worried.
take that.
Something that,
All right, so my last thing is I did a lot of research and looked into other CPCs and whether any of them have ever looked at a project and decided to not fully fund it as it was written in their stuff. Now, we've never done that here, and I've looked and I have seen none that have been done elsewhere either. So I wonder, but I've looked at hundreds of different grants, and it's often done in the grant world that, if the grant writers don't particularly, want to fully fund the project, they'll just come up with some smaller amount. So I'm just throwing that out there because I'm just trying to make a decision on this. Right.
I mean, that's what
And I
I'm
don't-
saying, suggesting that maybe we could do it for 40,000.
Right.
With the understanding, I think that would help you leverage it at town meeting if it were to go on the warrant. CPC is willing to match it if you
The
match.
town does.
Right.
That's an
And
even
we're,
better way of matching grant, like, just if you worded it that way so that, they would split half. I think they might go for that.
I think so.
I think if you came up 80,000 to the town, people would push back. But if you said the CPC feels like this, they would match, or they would get to a certain point and you are committing to do $5,000 worth of fundraising or
Yeah.
whatever you think you can do between now and July,
Okay,
that might go a long way too.
okay.
If
Great comments, Phil.
if Richard, one of the basic reasons for creating the Community Preservation Act is to reduce the need for people to go to town meeting and ask voters to raise and appropriate funds, but rather even though it's essentially from the same source, it reduces the pain and inconvenience of doing the raise and appropriate and so on by having available a modest but growing and supplemented by the state set of funds specifically for the set of these purposes. So I think my own view is that this is actually very highly compatible with the reason the Community Preservation Act was invented, and a benefit of the fact that Hanson has adopted this and been in the business for at least a few years is that we do have a modest set of buckets or resources for appropriate purposes like this. And whether everyone sees it that way or not, I don't know, but I've seen some specific excellent matches between this project and the whole concept of community preservation, as well as the plans, because I was on the master plan committee and both of the recent open space and recreation plans, and again, I see a lot of compatibility.
Well, that's good to know, but I would agree that it does fit in with that, but I also see that point where I get the feeling around town, a lot of people feel as though the town should be more responsible for Camp Kauai. It's just a feeling I'm getting in talking to people in the last year and a half or so. And so I see that point too.
But through community preservation, that might be one of the ways to help do that.
Right. Okay.
So would the committee at this time consider a motion that would authorize me to request a placeholder article for the $80,000 with the understanding that the CPC has not yet approved this application?
I would make that motion.
And I would second it.
Any further discussion?
In
Teresa?
terms of voting on that, so what's the process then to help the Recreation Committee come up with a plan to get to resolution?
That's a great question. I would think what we're, in taking this action tonight, what we're essentially saying is the Rec Commission would have to work over the next, let's just say over the next month in order to, that would be, I mean, certainly you would have every right to revisit this entire topic as your own commission, saying, okay, the feedback we're getting is there a match? Is there a blending?
Right.
What is the appetite of the commission? And ultimately, you wouldn't need this committee's permission to do that, but certainly some level of communication prior to the next meeting. And
So the warrant closes, I think, is it this Friday?
I think they may have kicked the can because of the snow to next
So next
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Thursday, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
next Thursday.
Right.
This, like tomorrow?
I think so, yeah. They have a meeting tomorrow.
You
I'm
can.
pretty sure they do.
So, but I think Tom was saying that he heard that they postponed it another week because of the
Oh, okay.
storm.
Yeah, I
You
apologize.
should call Mary. She'll tell you when it's due, but you
And-
have to get
and in
something in
terms-
soon.
And in terms, Diane was just asking Teresa as you were commenting about the level of detail involved in writing a warrant article. And Teresa worked with Mary for a historic commission article. It doesn't have to be that long, and
She'll help you write it.
she was a great resource
Okay.
on that. So in that regard, that would be the action that we would take at this point if that is voted in. And then, as chair, I would certainly be more than happy to come to a Recreation Commission meeting in the next 3 weeks, if that would be of any assistance, just a face-to-face conversation. And we'll have this as an agenda item. So our agenda item for our April meeting will be to get any feedback from Diane as the representative. It might result in something amended in this application. Very likely, it would probably be dollar signs, fundraising, some other strategy, but that I would go on a limb and say that the guts of the technical part of this would remain the same.
Can we all agree to that, so that if they were to work out a financial plan, nobody else has a substantive issue with the application itself?
Right, it may be that the vote that we make tonight, we should understand and hopefully intend that it would be very much supporting the merits of the explanatory details we see here, but of course, there could be flexibility on dollar amounts.
I think all I would ask is that at our April meeting, if there are any technical amendments to the application,
Okay.
that if that only appears on a couple of pages, that those could be produced for us without you know,
Yep.
it's not like we're
Redoing the whole
digesting,
thing.
without redoing the whole thing.
God bless you.
And that if we, and so if we end up approving, or whatever we are voting on in April, it will be, it may be an amended version of this. We'll have the full amended application in front of us before we vote. And
And
again, I'm sorry, Teresa. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt, but then the logistics of, so say they were to bring the amount down, at town meeting, we would then just say we're actually not asking for the full 80, we're decreasing that
Yes.
right at town meeting.
That is-
We do that now.
We wouldn't have to try to,
Yes.
we wouldn't
That's,
have to rewrite everything.
that's correct.
Right.
Okay.
That's,
Because I know if you submit, if you have a motion, you know, that's supporting an article, it's perfectly fine to amend the dollar amount on town meeting.
Yeah.
Down,
Down.
down, here you go.
I don't know,
Right, you
I'm
go.
not gonna say one way, but I'm sure that down would be more popular.
going up would result in someone asking, where are you getting the money to make it go up?
I think
John.
amending on the floor always looks like a roll-the-dope. People don't like it, they think there's something going on in the background. You know, every time I see one of those, I hear people in the back of my ear going, what the hell is that? What are they trying to pull? Do you know what I mean? So,
Even when it goes down?
yeah,
Yeah.
Really?
yeah, people like, you know, you should have come with what you wanted instead of amending it on the floor. It's done, you know, but not that often, and I think a lot of people vote negatively towards it just because it's amended on the floor.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I think that may be possible, but I think it also depends quite a bit on what the explanation is.
Right.
The explanation is something simple and
Like
something
we
that,
got
well,
fundraising money.
for
so we don't
example,
need
you know, a
as much.
specific source of funds was found as supplements, this, I would think that would be quite welcome,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Okay,
We have a motion.
thank you.
I did want to say to that, in the application, it says the letter from the Board of Selectmen is pending, and it should be in your application.
Yes, yeah, from Mike
Yeah.
McHugh.
Yeah.
So the motion on the floor is, I will request a placeholder for 80,000. The application is not being approved tonight. That's a matter that we'll be discussing at our April meeting.
Okay.
The last thing, Mr. Chairman, I would offer is, just as a point of information, I see they put the notice of intent package in here that they put in conservation. The Conservation Commission did hold, with all due proper procedures, a hearing on this, and the plan was presented, and the commission accepted the plan, approved it, and the hearing was closed, and it seemed to be a pretty good application in the opinion of conservation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? You don't have to
You
abstain.
don't
Oh,
have
well, then I'll say.
Okay. Any abstentions? Okay, unanimous.
So would you like these applications back to then redo them, so you don't have to waste paper? Is that okay?
This was really nice.
This is nicely presented, so
Maybe I'll
it
keep
might
mine,
be
put a lot
easier.
of notes in.
Put that in the historical file.
I had a little advice as I sat up at town hall with Patty.
Did you help her?
Yeah.
She just showed me one she had done, and I said, oh, I can do that.
Oh, you were supposed to give that to me tonight. Yeah.
Is there any other new business?
I almost thought it was going to
You're welcome. Sorry.
What about Cushing Pond?
I guess this is new business, but I believe at the last meeting I attended, or maybe it was by email I got this, there was some documentation from a person who owns some acreage in the northwest part of town that is largely the former site of Cushing's Pond.
You put in a pre-application.
And pre-app, that's what it was.
Yes, that's
And,
correct.
I would say that the Conservation Commission is aware of that now, I made them aware of that, and the level of interest in that is high.
Oh, good.
Very- However, as we've learned from past projects, a project like land acquisition, it's never a matter of just a few months and then you have some action you're ready to bring to the voters. There's going to need to be quite a bit of further discussion, and we know nothing about price or whatever, but we do feel that it had merit, and so that is being considered and acted upon in ways that don't involve this committee tonight, but just wanted you to be aware of that. So that's maybe new business that we might see down the road.
Did we approve that pre-application?
Yeah.
We did. We accepted that and the, Depot Village. And since that meeting with Shirley's doing all the heavy lifting, letters went out to the town administrator and conservation and open space. I'm pointing to Phil because that's where it went. as well as the Housing Authority, all the relevant parties, informing them of those pre-applications and essentially conveying this committee's feelings that the process really needs to include them at the outset. So, thank you for that update.
I told Tom earlier, but just to have it in the meeting minutes, the Housing Authority voted, so I have to recuse myself with regards to the Deco Village application, but there was a sentiment on the committee to have somebody from housing. So the Housing Authority voted Mike Jones to, when that application comes up, to attend the meeting and be here as the Housing Authority voice.
Will you still attend the meeting?
I will still
Or
be
you could
here.
ask it?
Yeah.
And then-
A general thing, yeah,
As long as it doesn't conflict with your.
that's right. On that particular application, I can't comment, but
Was there
Sure.
a meeting about that project in town recently? Was
Been
there?
many of them.
Yeah, I know.
So, and again, those aren't on the agenda because it's no need to carry them forward until we have some action to take, but it's good to know that something might be coming. And John, to your earlier question, I knew there was a reason I carry this with me, but I'm happy to say that on page 21 of the Community Preservation Plan, under recreation, it lists 3 priorities: develop a town park at the Plymouth County Hospital, provide needed park amenities, and the 3rd priority reads, improve recreation facilities at Camp Kawani. Potential project written as undertake improvements to the waterfront at Cranberry Cove, estimated cost $50,000.
Right.
So,
I think,
while that doesn't specify docks, I mean,
right, because there's another project that was in the works in years past that was the waterfront, down where you go down the steps.
Right,
Closer
create
to the
access
lodge.
access to
Yeah.
the second waterfront
Yeah.
area.
Or
Yes.
back too. So that might have been what they were talking about.
Very
It
good.
matters, you know.
Thank you. With no further business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second,
What about the boulder thing?
we passed over it because we're still working
Yeah,
on the invoices.
Yes, so the commission decided that it wasn't the right time.
Well, can I
and-
still make calls? I had all these.
Comment away.
6 o'clock, second
We're adjourned.
Wednesday. All in favor of adjournment, yes?
Bye.
Unanimous.
But
Thank
you
you.
have comments on